All right, let's get right into it. For thousands of years, there was this one river that did way more than just, provide water for a civilization. It literally shaped its soul. We're talking, of course, about the Nile. And we're going to explore how its incredible rhythm created one of the most stable and, honestly, one of the most optimistic societies the world has ever seen. I mean, just look at this thing. When you see how massive this basin is, it's no surprise the Nile was the absolute center of the Egyptian universe. It was everything to them, their highway, their calendar, the source of all life. But the real story here, the one we're digging into, isn't just about the water itself. It's about how the personality of this river, its unique character, shaped their entire way of thinking. And that really gets us to the heart of it, right? How did this happen? It's one thing for a river to, let you grow crops. That's huge, obviously. But it's something else entirely for it to shape how you see life, death, even the entire cosmos. So how on earth did a river do that? Okay, so it all starts with the flood. Every single summer, the Nile would flood its banks, and this wasn't some scary, random event. It was Egypt's life flood, a predictable miracle, you could say. But, and this is a big but, that miracle was walking on a very, very fine line. You see, the Egyptians were constantly living on a knife's edge. If the flood was too low, that rich, black, fertile silt wouldn't get deposited on the fields, and that meant one thing: famine. But if it was too high, well, then the flood turned into a total monster, washing away villages, dikes, everything. So getting it just right, that was the key to everything. And you can really feel how they felt about the river in their own words. Listen to this. Hail to thee, O Nile. This isn't just a song about a river, this is pure worship. They saw the Nile as a living, breathing god, the source of everything good in their world. But here's the thing, they didn't just sit back and pray for the best. They got smart. They innovated. What you're looking at here is a Nilometer. It's basically a staircase for measuring the water level. With these, the priests could actually predict how good the flood was going to be. And this wasn't just about farming. It was a tool of the state. It let them figure out tax rates, manage food supplies. It was their way of bringing a little bit of order to this massive, powerful force of nature. So we've got this physical reality, right? This reliable, cyclical river. But how does that jump from the riverbank into their heads, into their entire worldview? Well, it had a massive impact on how they saw everything. Think about it. Every single year, your entire world is reborn in a predictable, life-giving event. When that's your reality, you start to believe the whole universe works that way. You start to see life not as random or chaotic, but as part of a huge, stable, and, well, a good cycle. And that right there is the bedrock of their optimism. And they had a word for this idea, this cosmic order. They called it Ma'at. Ma'at was, well, it was everything. It was the guiding principle of Egyptian life. It meant cosmic balance, truth, justice, all of it wrapped into one. And if you lived your life according to Ma'at, you were living in harmony with the rhythm of the universe. A rhythm they saw with their own eyes every year when the Nile flooded. And check this out. This is how they actually pictured the flood itself. This is the god Hapi. And what's so fascinating is his appearance. He's got a beard, which is typically male, but also a big belly and breasts, representing fertility. This androgynous look is just brilliant, isn't it? It perfectly captures the dual nature of the flood. It's both a powerful masculine force and a nurturing feminine provider. So this deep fundamental optimism, this belief in a just and orderly cosmos, it naturally bled into how they thought about the biggest unknown of all, death. And let me tell you, their view of the afterlife was worlds away from what their neighbors believed. Yeah, for the Egyptians, the afterlife wasn't some gloomy, shadowy underworld, and it definitely wasn't a place of eternal punishment. Nope. For them, it was basically just more of the good life they already had. It was like an idealized version of their life on the Nile, just continuing on forever with prosperity and joy. And their idea of a judgment day, it was a perfect reflection of their values. So here's how it worked. Your heart, which they believed held your character, was literally weighed on a scale against the feather of Ma'at, that symbol of truth in cosmic order. If the scale's balanced, awesome, you get to enter the eternal realm. But if your heart was heavy with bad deeds, it gets devoured and you just disappear. And this is so, so important. The worst thing that could happen to you wasn't eternal torture in some kind of hell. It was just oblivion.
You cease to exist. You're removed from that great eternal cycle. And that absence of a hell is maybe the single biggest testament to their deeply optimistic worldview, a worldview born right on the banks of their predictable river.
Okay, now this whole idea of a society built around a river, it led to a really popular theory about how the pharaohs got all their power. It's a theory you might have even heard before. But as it turns out, it's pretty much wrong. So let's bust a major myth. The theory is called Oriental despotism, and the basic idea goes something like this. In these big river societies, you need a super powerful central government to build and run massive irrigation projects. And whoever controls the water, well, they control everybody. This, so the theory goes, is what gave the ruler absolute despotic power.
Sounds plausible, right? But for ancient Egypt, the evidence just isn't there. For one thing, archaeology shows us that most of the irrigation was small-scale, handled by local villages. And if you look through all their records, you just don't find titles like Minister of Canals or a Royal Irrigation Director. It just wasn't a thing. The pharaoh's power didn't come from being a master engineer.
So what was it then? A much better explanation is something called the social cage. See, Egypt's geography is totally unique. You've got this long, thin strip of super fertile land surrounded on both sides by a huge, deadly desert. There was literally nowhere to run. This geography effectively caged the population, making them incredibly easy to count, to tax, and to control. So let's put it all together. The pharaoh's incredible power didn't come from controlling the water. It was ideological. He wasn't the kingdom's chief plumber. He was the divine guarantor of Ma'at, the guy who was supposed to keep the entire cosmic order in balance for a population that was physically trapped by the very river that gave them life. Okay, so that was the ancient world, a world built on the idea of this stable, predictable, infinite gift from a god. But today, oh man, that relationship between Egypt and the Nile has gone through a massive, seismic shift. That predictable miracle is now a finite and deeply threatened resource. Just think about this number, 500 cubic meters. That's the predicted water supply per person per year. Hydrologists have a name for that level, absolute scarcity. And it's a line they are right on the verge of crossing. The gift of the Nile, it's running out. And this comparison right here just says it all. On the one side, you have the ancient Nilometer, a tool built to measure and receive a gift from a god. On the other, the modern Aswan High Dam, a colossal piece of engineering designed to tame, control, and manage a natural resource. The whole mindset has flipped. And the challenges today are just immense. You've got geopolitical tensions over new dams being built upstream. You've got a population that's just booming. You've got climate change threatening the very rainfall that feeds the Nile at its source. That peaceful, predictable cycle the ancients knew, it's gone. It's been replaced by a tangled mess of modern crises. And all of this leaves us with a final big question to think about. For 3,000 years, people looked at this river and saw a god, the source of all order and life. Today, we look at that same river and we see cubic meters of water, geopolitical assets, and treaty obligations. It really makes you wonder, in gaining all this control over nature, what essential part of our understanding of the world have we lost along the way?